Seattle U is on fire to start the year. They are 11-2 as of the recording of this video. They rank 110th in KenPom. They've taken down two power conference schools in their non-conference schedule, and they're getting ready to head into their first season in the WCC with a couple of games coming up in conference at the end of 2025 going into the new year. So let's take some time today. Let's discuss two different things. Let's discuss number one, what is driving the success of Seattle U this season? And number two, is it all going to come crashing down in the WCC, or are they going to be able to sustain the success they've had in the non-conference and be able to compete at the top with Gonzaga and St. Mary's and San Francisco? This is a really strong conference, and it's the last season with Gonzaga, so there's a lot of good teams in here. So let's take a minute here and let's dissect what is making Seattle U skyrocket and soar so high up this season. Looking at their schedule thus far, the two power conference wins that I mentioned were over Stanford and over Washington. They just recently took down Washington by 4 points. It's going to be their two most notable wins. Their two losses came from Cal Poly by just 2 points and UC Santa Barbara by just 3 points. So both not bad losses. Cal Poly is a little bit underrated in my opinion. They haven't had quite the success that I thought they were going to coming into the season. UC Santa Barbara has been a little bit up and down, but they are still a very solid squad that's going to be competing at the top of the Big West this season. So their two losses there are not bad by any means. And for the rest of their games, they're winning by a margin of 10 points if you exclude their two non-Division I wins. When I'm looking at metrics, I like to take out the non-Division I wins, non-Division I games for stats anyway, because they skew them typically, if you win by 80 points. So outside, against Division I opponents, they're winning games by a margin of 10 points, which is very solid, doing exactly what they need to do against their fellow Division I competition, and they're taking care of business against these other opponents. So let's dive into who is leading this charge, because they have three players in particular that are really doing a phenomenal job. Those three players are Brayden Maldonado, Heimbrodt, and Junseok Yeo. Maldonado is going off this season. He's averaging 15.9 points, leads the team overall, with 3.8 rebounds as well, 2.4 assists, and 1.8 steals. He's shooting 51.2% overall and 45.2% from three-point. He features a 129 offensive rating, which is in the top 180 in the country in KenPom. When on the court, he's taking 24.9% of the team's shots, so he's very much an important piece outside of just averaging points-wise, but also in terms of the entire scheme of their offense and their success. And while he's doing so, he's incredibly efficient. He has a 61.2% effective field goal percentage, which is top 150 in the country, and a 67% true shooting percentage, which is in the top 60. So this guy is not only good offensively, he's extremely efficient at doing it too. Sometimes you're going to have these guys that's going to come in, they're going to average 18, 20 points a game, but they're taking 20 shots a game. That's not Maldonado's game. He's very much an effective shooter. He puts a huge emphasis on not taking bad shots. So this is he's kind of the leading player of these three guys that we're going to talk about here. And he also plays some really strong on-ball defense. He has a 3.6% steal percentage. That is top 170. And what's really remarkable is the fact that he has missed just one free throw against Division I opponents this year. I mean, that is insane. His 97.6% free throw percentage is second in the nation. So when I'm saying this guy is an incredibly effective scorer, he's effective getting to the line, he's effective finishing at the line, he's effective scoring on the court. I mean, phenomenal offensive talent here with Maldonado. And essentially, I mean, what they're saying is, what all these metrics are saying that I just ripped off to you is the fact that the guy can score, and the guy's a very good on-ball defender, and there's a reason why he's their leading player on this team, but he's not alone. Heimbrodt is also an incredible player for the Seattle U Redhawks. He's averaging 13.8 points, 4.3 rebounds, 2 assists, 1.3 steals, and 2.8 blocks per game. He's shooting 49.6% overall and 33.3% from three-point. He isn't as offensively efficient as Maldonado, but is still a very important offensive piece in this rotation. Let's go through some of these, but outside of the offense, on the defensive end is where he really, really takes flight in his stats. I mentioned here, he's averaging 2.8 blocks per game. I mean, that's an insane stat line. Outside of that, though, his 10.9% blocking percentage is 25th in the nation. His 2.9% steal percentage, which is in the top 410. So what I'm saying here is this guy is not only good at blocking shots and maintaining his presence in the paint, he's very good at also creating turnovers that he can turn into points for the Redhawks in other ways. So outside of that, though, obviously he's still a good scorer. He's averaging nearly 14 points per game here. And he's getting to the free throw line at a very strong rate, 41.5%. But I'd like to see him improve on this because he's only shooting 63.3% from the line. So he's doing a good job of getting to the line, just not doing a good job at converting to the line. That's okay, though. There's plenty of other good things that make up for one area where maybe he lacks a little bit. So back to the offensive stats, though. What I was saying is, yes, he's not as efficient. He's still decently efficient, though. He's got a 51.7% effective field goal percentage and a 54.1% true shooting percentage. So while these are not Maldonado numbers, Heimbrodt is better defensively than Maldonado. So it kind of evens out to where these two guys are like the go-to 1-2 punch, because outside of that, his usage percentage is 25.4%. And when he's on the court, he's taking 26.6%. So between both Maldonado and Heimbrodt, they're taking over 50% of the shots for Seattle U's entire team when they're on the court. It's pretty much one of those two guys. So phenomenal job. He's an incredible defender, incredible offensive presence as well. While despite not being as efficient as Maldonado, you don't care though. That's fine. Because as we're going to talk about later, in terms of the team metrics, they put a huge emphasis on being effective with their shot selections. So these two guys, go-to guys, one of the main reasons why Seattle U's had such a high success rate this season thus far. Rounding out these two players, kind of making what I'm going to call a three-headed monster, is Yeo. Yeo's averaging 12.2 points, 4.1 rebounds, 1.5 assists. He's shooting 48.7% overall, 33.3% from three-point. You might remember him. This was one of the most highly regarded international prospects a few years ago coming out. He committed to Gonzaga initially, spent 2 seasons there, did not see the floor as much before he transferred. He's now a senior. He's transferring to Seattle U, and man, he is not afraid at the moment, and he is taking full advantage of what is now his first full-time opportunity in college basketball in the United States. This guy is doing a phenomenal job. He's ranked top 330 in effective field goal percentage with a 56.7% overall rate, 57.9% true shooting percentage. So again, as we're alluding to here in terms of the team metrics, again, a big high emphasis on taking effective shot selections and not just throwing stuff up. Yeo is a perfect example of what Maldonado and Heimbrodt both are bringing to the table, as well as part of this three-man package that's really driving the success for Seattle U. So his 29% assist rate, he has some work to do on cutting down on the turnovers. He's currently averaging 1.8 turnovers compared to just 1.5 assists. But again, this is his first full campaign in college basketball. I'm not too worried about it. It's not the end of the world. They have other guys that are facilitating offense. And what's really impressive is the fact that he's essentially like this glue guy. He's not going to go out there. He's not going to average 20-plus points per game. He's not going to go out there and drop 30 points in a game. He's not going to go out there and grab 10 rebounds in a game. But the point being, though, is the fact that he can get out there consistently and give you 10, 18 points a game, somewhere in that range, on top of, 4 to 6 rebounds. That is the definition of a perfect glue guy. And that's why he's become such an important piece of this rotation, because you kind of have Heimbrodt, who is very good defensively, has good offensive presence as well. Maldonado, who's the main offensive player. And then Yeo's just kind of in there as like the cherry on top. The guy who, if he's having a bad night, the team's probably not going to be doing very well overall, because he's that guy who's bringing everything together for them, especially on the offensive end. So, again, maybe not quite the same metrics as the other two that I just previously mentioned here, but an extremely important player. And I'm super happy to see him have the success that he's had at Seattle U, considering, again, there was a lot of talk around him coming in when he first came into Gonzaga, and he just never saw that time commitment and the time opportunity, and now he's finally getting that, and he's taking full advantage of it. Okay, we've already covered 3 players. I'm not going to cover the entire roster, but I want to cover one more guy because he has some insane stats that is very unique, and you don't see, when I say unique, I mean you do not see these numbers very often, but that man is Malik Arrington. He is averaging 4 points a game, which you're like, why am I covering this guy averaging 4 points a game? Let's dive into the rest of his stats. His total stat line is 4 points per game, 5.1 assists, 2.8 rebounds, 2.2 steals, and just 1.5 turnovers per game. This guy is a phenomenal ball handler, one of the better point guards outside of the non-power conference ranks. He's not a scorer. That's not his thing. That's why you have Maldonado. That's why you have Heimbrodt, and that's why you have Yeo. Arrington doesn't need to score, but he's a phenomenal facilitator of offense, and a phenomenal point guard. Looking at his overall stats here, he's shooting 34.1% overall, 37.5% from beyond the arc. Again, don't care. He does everything else fine. His 29% assist rate is in the top 130 in the country. He's a menace with his on-ball defense. He's a 4.6% steal percentage. That is in the top 50. So he's the type of player who's not going to light it up offensively for you, but he's going to get you assists, he's going to limit turnovers, and he's going to create turnovers for your offense on the defensive end. So this is what I'm talking about. Very, very important piece of the puzzle in terms of what is causing Seattle U to have so much success thus far through the season. Rip through some team metrics before we start diving into the overall picture for this team. So it's a little bit of mix here. Defensively, they are very good. Offensively, their efficiency has been unique, and we're going to get into this one here. But looking at the defensive end, they rank 58th in defensive adjusted efficiency per KenPom. They are 70th in opponent effective field goal percentage, 15th in opponent turnover percentage, 82nd in opponent three-point percentage, 91st in opponent two-point percentage, 22nd in opponent blocking percentage, 47th in opponent steal percentage, and 21st in opponent non-steal turnover percentage. So, that is a lot of stats to say this is a very good defensive team. Offensively, they rank 182nd in overall offense adjusted efficiency. They are 62nd in effective field goal percentage, 101st in three-point shooting percentage, 70th in two-point percentage, and 19th in blocking percentage. So you might look at the offensive stats and say, wow, you've kind of highlighted over the course of this video in terms of the efficient shot selection, and it seems like some of these numbers are better. Why are they ranked so low in the overall adjusted efficiency rankings? That's because they don't do a great job of limiting the turnovers. Ayrton does an incredible job, but overall they don't. And they also don't care about offensive rebounds whatsoever. In fact, they rank 245th in turnover percentage and 271st in offensive rebounding. They don't care. So it is kind of an interesting stat though, because let me get into a couple players here. Austin Maurer, he's 21st in the country with a 16.7% offensive rebounding percentage. And among the rest that play consistent minutes, no one is higher than 3.8. Maurer has 30 offensive rebounds. Brock Felder has 22 offensive rebounds. Brandon has 17 offensive rebounds. Yeo has 11. The rest of the team, nobody has more than 6. And why is that? It's because they put an emphasis on getting back on the defensive end and being able to set themselves up in terms of compromising on the fact that they're not going to crash the offensive glass. And that's okay. That works for them. They're very good defensively. So why crash the offensive glass if you have a very good defensive team that's going to be able to get back, get set, and ensure that, number one, you're going to prevent that team from scoring, or you're going to create turnovers for yourself, because they're very good at creating turnovers when on defense, and also at ensuring the overall three-point inside the paint defensive metrics here. So it all lines up here. So they don't have to crash the glass, and that's totally okay. Because again, in the defensive side, they rank in the top 100 or top 50 in the majority of important categories. And you know what they say? Defense wins championships. As of right now, they're projected to go 11-7 in the WCC overall. Their 7 losses are to Gonzaga and St. Mary's, both at home and on the road. Their additional losses are projected all away at Pacific, Loyola Marymount, and Santa Clara. So, 11-7 is going to put you probably in that 5-6 range. The WCC is a very good conference overall, and essentially it's saying you're going to get the job done against the lower half teams, which I firmly believe they will. This is a very good team. They are doing that already in the non-conference against teams that are very similar to the bottom half of the WCC. However, I think we're going to get a full taste of what their potential truly is within the first couple weeks, because they have a gauntlet of a schedule to open up the WCC play. Let me rip you off these teams here. They're going to take on San Francisco, Washington State, Gonzaga, and St. Mary's. Washington State, you should beat that. You should win that game. They're projecting to win the San Francisco game, which, here's the thing about the Dons. The Dons have been disappointing overall. However, they're still a very good team that can catch fire. And it's not like they've been total passovers. It's been the fact that they just haven't met the expectations that a lot of us, including myself, had for them coming into the season. So let's say you lose to Gonzaga in the St. Mary's game, but you pick up wins over San Francisco and Washington State, you're sitting very well. And I think that gives us, again, the full taste of what is this team actually going to be able to do within conference? Are they going to be able to take down the Washington State teams that they should beat? Or are they going to flounder against them? And then all of a sudden, that's when you start risking falling down deeper and deeper and deeper. Now, given though, this team is so good defensively, And they played the fundamentals so well that I truly do think they have the potential. I'm not saying they're going to win the WCC, because they're not. My point being, though, I do think they're a legitimate team. I think they're a legitimate team that put them in NIT, and they could go on a run easily. Could they sneak their way into the tournament? Absolutely. It takes one bad night for a Gonzaga or one bad night for a St. Mary's to fall apart in the WCC tournament, and for a team like Seattle U to pick up the torch and head to the tournament. Now, given, I think that is going to be the only way that we can have a 3-bid WCC this season, because the other teams at Santa Clara's had a complete meltdown in December. San Francisco is not as good as we all thought they were going to be. So really, right now, it's a 2-bid league. It's going to be St. Mary's and Gonzaga. And St. Mary's has been a little bit questionable as of late. I think they're going to be fine. It's fine. Randy Bennett's an incredible coach, and they're going to be great. My point being, though, if you want a 3-bid team, or 3-bid league, I'm telling you, Seattle U could sneak their way through that tournament and secure an auto bid. People aren't talking about them enough, but they have such a foundation in some of these players. Those 4 players I talked about are the perfect cog in the machine that's going to work for this team. So I highly recommend that you check them out and come back, circle back to this video in about 2 weeks. Let's see what they do in that opening couple weeks there with the WCC. It's a very tough schedule. I'm really curious. Can they come out 2-2? 2-2 is my goal for them through that, because that means you take down Washington State and take down San Francisco, and don't get blown out by St. Mary's. Compete with St. Mary's. Don't get blown out by Gonzaga either. My point being, though, is this is a legitimate team. So let me ask you this. What do you think? Do you think that Seattle U's legit? Do you think this whole 11-2 start is just a fluke? Drop it down in the comments. I'm curious to see your thoughts. You know, we've done some of these before, and I've hit, I've missed. So really curious, what do you think of the Seattle U Redhawks? And thank you all for joining in to this latest episode of the Bracket Busters podcast. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season, and thank you for tuning into this. And our next one will be dropping very soon. Thank you all.